Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such like stories? Daniel was 48 years old when he first got married to his chosen one named Sarah, who recently turned 30. Many dissuaded Daniel from marrying her, warning about the age difference and pointing out that Sarah was of a different generation with different values. However, Daniel always brushed aside these concerns. He sincerely did not understand what differences could exist between him and Sarah, as he enjoyed every moment with her, and the fact that a young and passionate wife awaited him at home excited Daniel's consciousness. They met in a cafe where Daniel was having lunch with a business partner, and Sarah was drinking coffee with friends. Daniel immediately noticed the bright and free-spirited Sarah and offered to meet up. Thus, their relationship began with shy courtship, flowers, and late-night walks around the city. Daniel felt young and full of energy once again, and Sarah fueled him with her own energy. To him, it seemed like he could move mountains as long as she smiled for him and held his hand. Sarah worked in the personnel department. No matter how much Daniel tried to convince her to quit her job, she refused as she did not want to depend on him. In the morning, Daniel watched his wife get ready for work, and her tanned body looked incredible. "Yesterday, I interviewed some guys for our team," Sarah said, buttoning up her jeans. "Someone needs to start working today." Daniel enjoyed how his wife talked about her job. She did it with great love and interest. "Let's go somewhere tonight," he suggested. "That's a great idea." Sarah kissed her husband and left for work. In the evening, he picked her up and they went to a restaurant together. They were constantly going somewhere, and Daniel noticed disapproving looks thrown at them by those around them. But he was proud of his wife's youth and charm. "How did the day go? Did we accept the employee?" asked Daniel. Just then, their hot food was brought to the table. The dish smelled delicious. "Yes, we did. Even two of them, Lauren and Ryan." Their conversation flowed in the usual way. They enjoyed each other's company, delicious food, and beautiful live music. Daniel stroked his wife's leg under the table, and she looked at him with a tipsy smile on her lips. For several months, Daniel had noticed changes in his wife's behavior. She became more tender, affectionate, and attentive. In the evenings, she began to cook at home more often than suggest going out. He even jokingly asked her if she had a lover. "Sarah, you seem to be covering up sins," said Daniel, enjoying his tea after a hearty dinner. His wife shrugged. "Daniel, stop it, or don't you like it?" "Silly girl, I'm very happy," he said, approaching his wife and hugging her. Their lips met in a kiss. Sarah's phone constantly buzzed with messages. She read them, turning the screen so her husband couldn't see, even though she had never done that before. When Daniel asked her about it, she replied that it was for work, that they were swamped and she needed to be available all the time. One evening, Sarah was delayed at work, and her husband decided to pick her up, sending her a text message with a short text, "I'll be there soon." Daniel hurried to his wife. Sarah read the message but didn't reply. Daniel waited for her downstairs, a little away from the entrance to their office. Finally, the doors opened, and two people came out, Sarah and a young man. From the height of his age, Daniel would even call him a boy. They hugged briefly in farewell, their faces lit up with a smile. Daniel got nervous and honked the horn briefly, expecting a reaction from his wife. Sarah turned around and waved to him, but a worm of worry had already settled inside Daniel. Who was that? He asked when his wife got into the car. "A colleague. Remember I told you about Ryan? We recently hired him and another intern." Daniel nodded. "Did you become friends with him?" "Yes, he feels awkward in our company. He's still young. He's only 19, can you imagine?" Sarah chuckled. Upon hearing this, Daniel relaxed a little. If his wife reacted that way to the age of this young guy, he shouldn't worry. He pushed away the bad thoughts that had already vividly painted the picture of infidelity in Daniel's head. He always had an especially vivid imagination, and now it was clearly not doing him any good. Sarah started staying at work more and more often. Daniel couldn't always pick her up, but when he managed to do it, two people always came out of the office, Sarah and Ryan. It infuriated Daniel terribly, but he tried not to talk about it with his wife. Once he had already provoked a major scandal with his suspicions, and Sarah had gone to live in a hotel for a week. Daniel couldn't risk that, so he preferred to keep quiet and suffer everything inside. One summer evening, Daniel came for Sarah, who was again delayed, and waited for her in the car for a long time. He sent her a message, but his wife didn't even read them. Daniel decided to go up to her in the office. He saw that the light was on. Climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor, Daniel became more and more nervous with each step. And as it turned out, not for nothing. His heart was pounding hard when Daniel pushed open the door to the office where his wife worked. It was ajar, and it was quiet. Already listening, Daniel noticed suppressed moans and smacking sounds. Suddenly flinging open the door, he saw his wife on her knees in front of that same boy. Everything was obvious. The boy's pants were down, and the woman was sitting in front of him, topless. Ryan, not expecting such a turn of events, tried to put on his pants as quickly as possible. The woman continued to sit on the floor. She didn't raise her eyes to her husband, just covered her bare chest with her hands. Daniel was overwhelmed with fear. Daniel raised his hand to strike, but unexpectedly Ryan burst into tears, and Daniel let him go. Feeling free, the boy quickly darted to the door, and his hurried footsteps could be heard on the stairs. "What's wrong, Sarah? What's going on? You had everything," he asked his wife, his voice trembling. "Daniel, I don't know. It was like an obsession. I was constantly thinking about him, and then..." The wife began to sob. "Daniel, please forgive me." A woman ran up to him and hung onto his neck. Daniel hugged her and held her close. Both were crying from the overwhelming emotions. Sarah was crying out of shame, while Daniel was crying out of pain from the betrayal. The wife kissed his cheeks and kept whispering, "Forgive me, forgive me." Daniel tried to forgive his wife, and they lived together for another 6 months, constantly soaking in arguments because he couldn't forget the infidelity. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his wife on her knees with Ryan with his pants down. When Daniel finally had enough, he asked Sarah to move out and filed for divorce. In his youth, Daniel dreamed of buying a big dog, a good car, and going on a journey. He realized that now was the time when he could do it. The wounds from the broken marriage had not healed yet, and he was unlikely to build new relationships anytime soon. After finally parting ways with Daniel, Sarah continued to work for the same company for some time, and later moved to another city where she had her second marriage, which also ended in divorce, despite having a child. She even briefly reconciled with Ryan, who came to the new city for her, but their relationship fell apart without ever really getting started. Painful as it may be to realize, the woman was left alone, and justice was clearly served. Sarah betrayed the man who loved her deeply, and fate decided that she no longer deserved such love. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for listening to the story until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to like this video, as it will help us promote the channel. All the best.